comes. I can't think of anything I enjoy doing more than teaching or preaching. Did you notice this morning I was shorter than usual? Happy New Year.
I thought it was 2020.
All right, we're going to pick up in chapter 12, verse 12 tonight. As we're moving through the middle section here, we're not really advancing the story in chronological order here, but we're getting a look at some of the people involved here and being identified to us. And in verse 12 here, and we're closing up on that war in heaven that we saw. And we hear words that was very familiar from this morning's sermon. Therefore, rejoice. Boy, I tell you, you could preach a sermon on that again, couldn't you? Therefore, rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Because of this, you all yourselves be rejoicing. That is, you in the heavens, and you, the ones dwelling in them. But oi, to the earth and the sea, because the diablos came down toward you, possessing wrath, great wrath, having been aware that a short time left that he possesses. I like to read from the literal Greek like that, a literal translation, because it really modifies a lot of the words there that English, we just don't have the modifiers, and I think it really brings to life a little bit more for us. But you notice the heavens were called on to rejoice. I would like to hear that. Someday we will. Can you imagine the heavens rejoicing, the angels and those who are there cheering because of Satan's defeat? You know, I'm a big college football fan. There's no secret. You listen to the fans, they cheer. That's nothing to what you're going to hear on this rejoicing day. But you notice it goes from one end of the spectrum to the other. The heavens and ye that dwell in them rejoice, but woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. That's really something, isn't it? Because they're cheering in heaven because of Satan's defeat, but there's a warning here. Those on earth are warned because the devil is filled with great wrath. He knows his time is short. I'll tell you what, if he is this, and we're talking about the midpoint of the tribulation at this point, we're talking about here. Can you imagine how angry he is? He's been angry since it seemed like forever, since he's been expelled from heaven to be defeated the first time. Now he's lost all access. Can you imagine how angry and how wicked this creature is now? I'm calling him a creature, this fallen angel. And great wrath in Greek is literally translated emotional passion or extreme rage. You know, we've seen people that just go off the deep end. They just go, we call it ballistic, right? The jugular vein sticks out and the face gets red. It's hard to imagine what he's capable of doing. Of course, now remember, the devil can only do what God allows him to do. He is not God. And God turns him loose to a certain point. And we've never seen such wrath as we will see then. Rejoice means good. It's two words. It means good the mind in the Greek. Good the mind, good. Rejoice. And isn't that a beautiful way of putting it? When you rejoice, the mind's good. But as soon as you let something get in there that aggravates you, the mind's not good anymore, is it? When you quit rejoicing, when you quit having that good mind, oh boy, your whole attitude changes. You're no longer a happy person, and you look at things differently. When you're having a good day, don't you look at things different? Don't you look at the world and say, boy, it's beautiful, but the first thing that aggravates you, everything changes. I can go to the doctor, he'll take my blood pressure. Your blood pressure's good. I said, well, nobody's aggravated me yet. And that's the way it is. We need to keep that good mind. We need to continually be in this good frame of mind, believers. Now, it's easier for us because we're not going to be here for this terrible time of the tribulation. Not the first part or the second part or anywhere in between. We'll be with the Lord. We're going to be one of those rejoicing in heaven.
Amen.
But right now, we need to be continually of that good frame of mind. Sometimes this word can be translated, make merry. That's another line, make merry. Always makes me think of Charles Dickens in The Christmas Carol. I was making merry yesterday, Bob Cratchit tells Scrooge. He was in a good frame of mind. And that's the way we need to be. We need to make merry all the time. And when he talks about ye heavens, more than likely, we're talking about first the angelic beings who are rejoicing. It's, I've often thought about this. It's kind of a bittersweet thing. These are all created beings, the angels, and at one time the fallen angels were holy angels. And yet the war erupted, and now it's kind of like a brother against brother type of thing, isn't it? But they rejoice because the holy angels are holy in God, and they know that those who have fallen are wicked, so there's the rejoicing. And they're rejoicing because it's all over. That's the reason. I know there's 3.5 years left down here, but the transfer of the kingdom has now been established. It's all done. A lot of times we see proleptics in Revelation. That is, it's given to us in a way that it's, even though it's not completed at that point, it's seen as being completed. When Satan is cast out completely, the transfer is done. He's defeated. He's just waiting for the transfer, the final judgment to come. And it's coming pretty quickly. So the angels in heaven can see the end now. And they can rejoice and give thanks to God for this. But woe to the inhabitants of the earth and sea. Woe to the people down here. It's going to be a time as such as never was before and never will be again. But you notice there's even a woe to the sea creatures. It really extends out there, doesn't it? Life on earth is about to be attacked by satanic forces as they have never been attacked before. For example, over in Revelation 16, 13 and 14, we read this. And I saw 3 unclean spirits, like frogs, come out from the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the prophet. For they are spirits of the devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth, of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty. Armageddon. All this is beginning to build up to one thing. The devil knows that his time is limited down to 260 days. We're using a 30-day lunar calendar, 3.5 years. And that's the period of the Great Tribulation, the time of Jacob's trouble. This is the worst time in the history of this world. Satan's most savage attack on mankind will be this last half of the tribulation, and it's about to be unveiled to all the inhabitants down here on the earth. And Jesus warned that this would be the greatest time of tribulation over in Matthew 24:21. He says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So no stretch of the imagination can these prophecies be spread to cover the whole inter-Advent age, as some attempt to do. The amillennials, there's not going to be any kingdom, we're in the kingdom now. No, we're not. And with the tribulation, it was not World War I, it was not World War II, it will not be anything until we get to Armageddon. The tribulation's coming. And it's going to come hard. Now there's a 5th personage that we're going to look at, beginning in verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. But when the dragon recognized he was thrown down unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which bore the male. The woman, of course, is Israel. We've talked about that in detail. It's not Mary, it's Israel. She was introduced in verse 1. And she becomes, or always has been, a special object of Satan's attention and his persecution. When the dragon saw that she was cast unto the earth, that means when he saw here in Greek, it means to see and to recognize. He recognizes the fact now he's cast down here and there's no appeal. There's no way to go back. He can't have anything he's had before. Well, he's cast down, he's confined to the realm of earth, and he is filled with great wrath, as we talked about. He persecuted. Isn't it amazing when you read this? Past tense. And yet it is yet future. But it's written as if it is completed and done. God has seen this as done, pushed, he knows it's over. But persecuted, it's an aorist tense verb in the Greek. It could be translated, then he began to persecute, or thus he started persecuting. But I love the way it's put in the past tense there. Everything comes from the outside here in the Greek. So it could be like this, to have hostile pursuit, to chase, to be driven by hostility, or to drive hard with a purpose. And I think all of that describes Satan's desire in his destruction of Israel. He's working hard today. He has been since the call of Abraham. It's never changed. But he's really working hard there because he's down to such a short period of time. So he increases his activities and his persecution against the nation of Israel. He knows that the Jews are God's kingdom people, and they have been given promises. The land, the seed, the blessing. They're eternal, unconditional, they're literal, and they're going to be fulfilled. And he wants to try to destroy them, to thwart God's plans and purposes. He always has, he always will continue until the very end, but he's not going to win. I read the end of the book, I know. He's not going to win. As well in his thinking, if he could destroy every member of Israel, he thinks that he can stop the Messiah from coming back the second time, because the Messiah comes back the second time to do what? Save Israel. Not only physically, but spiritually. Look upon him whom they pierced. Paul says, all of Israel shall be saved. He's coming back for them. You know, the tribulation is Daniel's 70th week. It's, of course, a judgment against the wicked. And that includes Israel, but it's their week. It's that last week of Daniel, and the Lord's going to return for them. And Satan wants to stop that. He wants to be he thinks he should be the rightful ruler, but the Lord's going to rule in the kingdom forever. And as I said, Satan began this persecution right with the call of Abraham. From day one, he was trying to get Abraham. You remember, he knew from the seed of the woman. That's why you'd have Cain murdering his brother. He could possibly have been the one. And all the way down through there, he's always after the line. And so he really focuses in there. And by the persecution of Abraham and the attacks there, that set up the anti-Semitism with all of its hatreds and the terrorism today of even the homicide bombers. I'm not politically correct. I don't call them suicide bombers. They're homicide bombers. They're murderers. Don't be brought into the political correctness. Murder is murder, and they're homicide. That's what it is, homicide. And he has instilled all of this. And this time I'm going to say, I'm not trying to get too political, but if you've ever noticed, the UN, which I believe will have a strong part in Satan's hand in the future, has never ruled in favor of Israel or the United States. Why? Because Satan has a foothold in there. He's strong there. That's the plan of Satan, to use whatever he can, use anybody he can to destroy Israel. In verse 14 now, you can't beat God. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the 2 wings of the eagle, the great eagle, were given to the woman, in order that she might fly to the wilderness, and to the given place of her, where in that place she is being nourished a times, and half a time, away from the presence of the serpent. She's given supernatural help, symbolized by the 2 wings of a great eagle, which enable her to fly into the wilderness, into her place. The 2 wings of the eagle pictures the Lord actually transporting the nation, to a place of protection. One place, I think, is the rock city of Petra. To me, I think that's the perfect spot. And if you've ever seen that, it's a great spot. It's only really one way in, rock cliffs up. It's a great defensible position. The city has a narrow access that can be blocked and opens to a large canyon that's capable of protecting many thousands of people. Though Scripture is not specific, I think some of the 144,000 back in chapter 7 will also be preserved here. The Scripture speaks of God's protection of them. Or is this scattering possibly somewhat sheltering of the elect, saved Jewish remnant somewhere else? We're given no hint as to where this actually takes place or in what form that will be in. Although heaven will rejoice because Satan is out, the earth's not going to share that rejoicing. For he's personally going to take command of the earth. Now the commander-in-chief of the demons will take complete charge now. And he's going to lead an operation against his number one enemy. Now, today his number one enemy is still Israel, and it's the church. But the church is not here. So he attacks Israel first, and then he will attack other believers. But remember, the church is not in the tribulation. These are tribulation saints. It's a distinction. And he knows that his time is short. Time, half a times. Time, singular, is a year. Times, plural, is 2 years, and a half a time, of course, is a half a year. 3.5 years. That, of course, goes back to Daniel. So we know that the tribulation is 7 years, 3.5 years, and he knows now he's in that second part. How do we know we're in the second part of the tribulation? We'll find out later. That's the abomination of desolation. The Antichrist sets himself up in the temple as God, puts his statue of himself in there to be worshipped. That Jesus said, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, flee. That's the midpoint. The mark of the beast comes at that point. So the faithfulness of God to the woman, to Israel, is seen in the fact that she's given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to a place prepared for her where she will spend 3.5 years supernaturally protected by God. Remember, Satan can do nothing more than what God allows him to do. The 2 wings probably don't refer to a modern airplane. He's not going to have the Tel Aviv airport filled with airplanes and he's going to jump on there. No, I'm not talking about that. But rather, it speaks of God's delivering power. It's a figure of speech taken from the Old Testament passages such as Exodus 19:4. Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself. Deuteronomy 32:11 and 12. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, flourish over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings. So the Lord alone did lead them, and there was no strange God with them. So we see that this is where God is talking about these great wings be. I am going to take care of you. I am going to take you to a place. And the flight of Israel to a place of safety was also indicated in Matthew 24:16. Let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains, Jesus said there in Matthew 24:16. And in Mark 13:14, Jesus said that when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understand. Then let them that be in Judea flee unto the mountains. Jesus is giving them time. He's giving them direction here. Luke 21:21. Let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains. And let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. The Revelation 12-14 refer to a refuge maybe in the desert, or it's the same thing with the mountains. There's no contradiction. Both the mountains and the deserts are wilderness areas. They're in wilderness areas. You can talk about being on a Gilligan's Island, on a desert island, right? Well, it doesn't mean it's sand, and it just means it's deserted. There's nothing there. It's empty. And that's where he's taking them, to a deserted place. Whether it's in the mountains or in the valleys, it's deserted. And the length of time, as we said, times, and half a time. God is going to preserve them through this worst time of tribulation in the history of the world. 3.5 years. The reference to these specific time periods shows that the Great Tribulation is not the entire present age we live in. As people try to tell you, oh, we've gone through the tribulation, we don't believe that. These are literal time periods. Literal. When God gives you something specific, take it for granted. Take it and believe it. He's not saying 3.5 years is the same as 40,000. It's 3.5 years. Verse 15 talks about something important here too. The serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. Then the serpent poured out of the mouth of him after the woman water as a river, in order that he might cause a raging river. Well, since the serpent we know is symbolic of the devil, we know the woman is symbolic of Israel, those who accepted the Messiah as their Savior and fled from the Antichrist. The flood that flows from Satan's mouth is also symbolic, signifying that whatsoever he tries to do to destroy Israel comes to naught. No matter what he comes up with, no matter what his game plan, it doesn't work. You see, the whole passage here, in this case, is pictorial language. We start watching the dragon, the woman, everything tells us, I'm drawing you a picture so that you can see and understand. Clearly, it's some kind of dramatic pursuit or chase that Satan is using here. He's using all of his wiles, all of his ability, everything that he can, trying to get to those believing Jews. He's trying his very best to destroy them. And God says, no, I'm protecting them. And that really has to hurt Satan, because he wants to be God. He wants to be worshipped as God. And he's finding out once again, he's not God. The river, in this case, is meant to drown or kill the remnant. He's doing everything he can to destroy them. He doesn't just want to hurt them, he wants to kill them. So by using the Antichrist, we'll see here, Satan will marshal a great horde of men. He's going to arm them, send them wherever it's needed in order to destroy Israel, to murder those Jewish believers. That's his plan. Whosoever the enemy, it's apparent that God will use the earth, even the earth, supernaturally, to protect his people. This is nothing new. God can stop the sun. He can part the rivers. He can part a sea. God can use his creation any way he sees fit. In some way, God is going to assist the Israelites so that they are not completely destroyed. Though Zechariah 13:8 indicates that 2/3 could be struck down and perish. Listen to Zechariah 13:8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but 1/3 shall be left therein. God has a plan and a purpose for everything he does. He doesn't do anything arbitrarily. Though only 1/3 of Israel is in the land is preserved, of which that 144,000 is a part, because God has sealed them because they have a job to do. Satan the dragon continues his war against the rest. Remember, Revelation 12 introduces 4 important persons to us. One group of people living at the end time is Israel, Satan, Christ, the archangel, the remnant of Israel. And we get into chapter 13, 2 important persons complete that scene as we begin to move that direction. Verse 16 verifies what I said just now. The earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. Thus the earth gave help to the woman, and the earth opened the mouth of it, and swallowed down the river which the dragon poured out of the mouth of him. The Lord says, I'm going to preserve that remnant. Whatever Satan brings, I'm going to destroy it. I don't care how big of army you bring, what kind of weapons that you bring, you cannot defeat God. Satan thinks he can, but he can't do it. And because of this, in verse 17, the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of God, and had the testimony of Jesus Christ. Therefore enraged was the dragon at the woman, and he went out to make war with the rest of her offspring of her, that is, the ones carefully keeping the commandments of God, who are possessing the testimony of Jesus. The remnant of her seed. The seed of the woman that Satan and the Antichrist try to destroy in the middle of the tribulation throughout the days that follow represent those of Israel who have come to trust, be saved in Jesus Christ. They've accepted him as Savior. God will protect the ones that he keeps, that keep the commandments. And many Jews, that they will follow the Messiah. And I think it's going to be much easier for them to see the truth after the point of the abomination of desolation. All of a sudden, I think their eyes are going to be opened a little bit more and they see the truth. And when the Antichrist breaks that covenant with Israel, desecrates the temple, then they're going to reject him. They're finally going to see him for what he is. And they're going to turn to Jesus Christ for saving faith. Remember this morning where James talks about trouble and how trouble causes you to grow. Well, here the trouble comes and God has a purpose there so that they open their eyes and they see the truth and they turn to him. God is merciful, isn't he? This would also include, of course, the 144,000. And they're still preaching. I will guarantee you, in the darkest days of the tribulation, no matter what the persecution, this 144,000 are proclaiming Jesus Christ. When the abomination of desolation is set up in that temple, that 144,000 are preaching the truth. And don't you think they're not reaching people? When things start to fall into place, people start, what a revival. Man. Maybe there's someone we can look down from heaven, I don't know, but that would be wonderful to see, wouldn't it? All of his people coming. They have the distinction, this 144,000, of being active witnesses. You know, our missionaries today have a very difficult time out there. But nothing like these fellows are going to have. If they weren't sealed and protected by God, they wouldn't last very long, would they? Our missionaries today, some of them in very dangerous lands. But they're aggressive witness. And I'll tell you what, they must be really something. And that's doubtless one of the factors that makes them, the brunt of harshness or the Antichrist. I mean, Satan wants them. He wants to give them the harshest treatment he can, but he can't reach them. You know, when you have witnesses like that, Andrew Lewis over in Israel, one of the missionaries we support, Wesley Beckner told me one time, Andrew Lewis makes me nervous. He is so bold in his witness, so that they'll be out having dinner, and he's going table to table. He is that bold. Wesley's pretty bold himself. He said, wow, that's the way this 144,000 are going to be. Well, how important. It's the very opposite of how the dragon is going to act. The dragon wants to kill and drag away from the truth, and this 144,000 wants to give you the gospel. And Satan never rests from his murderous endeavors. He stops for no losses. He succumbs to no adversities. And he desists from no hindrances, no judgment, so long as he is at liberty to act or time in which he can operate. He keeps moving forward, trying to destroy. His energy and activities increase the more he sees and the closer he gets to the end. He does it out of wicked spite and mere evilness, with no prospect but utter defeat and eternal damnation. And that's what we see about the dragon in that chapter. And I'm going to have to stop there. We'll be picking up in chapter 13. And next week I'll be talking about the Antichrist, how he reveals himself. But I have some contrasts and parallels that I want to discuss before we begin that. But that's what we'll be picking up next week. You're going to cut that off for me.